with directory traversal, let's explain that first before we get any further. So with directory traversal, it's pretty simple, right? There's a reason for the dot, dot, dot. Let's say this is a web server right here. Let's say this is Facebook. Let me turn this down. All right, let's say this is Facebook right here. Facebook has other files on this server, right? Usually when you type in facebook.com, you're going directly to some type of web page, maybe your profile, somebody else's profile, but there are other files on this Facebook server, right? There may be an Etsy password file on that server, but in order for you to try to access that Etsy password file, because when you normally type into facebook.com, right, you're not in order to you're just going to Facebook's page, right? If you go to a different page, you'll see the URL over here. But if you wanted to access other files on this web server, you have to go back a folder because those other files are not going to be in the home location when you type facebook.com. You have to back out of that current folder to get to traverse that directory, to get to other files on this server, to get to other folders on this server. So when you see the dot, 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 that's someone doing this. So let me go over to, so most times people will make their website. They'll store all the files for the website here under this var www folder. And this probably looks familiar when you type in www.facebook.com. If I'm trying to do a directory traversal attack, I'm not trying to access files in this directory. I'm trying to get to the password file. So in order for me to get to the password file, I have to do this dot, 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 right? Dot, 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 forward slash, dot, 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 forward slash. And you see now if I hit enter, it's going to take me over to this folder. But that's why you see the dot, 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 forward slash in the directory traversal attack, because this is what they're doing. I'm just doing it from the command line. So I have to type this CD, right? When you, oh, if you're in a web address bar, you don't really have to type that CD. You can just do your facebook.com dot, 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 Etsy password, right? But since I'm not at the web address bar, right? I'm not over here on Firefox trying to type in a web address. I'm on the command line. I'm doing CD and then dot, 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 Etsy, whatever file I'm trying to access. Does that make sense, James?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yo, Telvin, what up, man? All right, let's see. All right, so today's Cyber Thursday. It's all about Python. All right. Shout out to everybody who's been leaving suggestions about the Cyber Thursday videos and material content that they want to see on Thursday nights. Tonight, somebody asked, hey, Toby, what's the best way to learn Python? What are the good courses out there? I gave them a few recommendations on Udemy, but I also told them the best way that I think to learn Python is to just jump into it, right? Because there's so much about Python, you can't really learn at least I don't think you can learn everything there is by taking a class, right? There's just so much, right? So wherever you start from is great. So we're just going to jump into it, right? And what I've already done is created, here goes the dot, dot, dot again. What I've already done is created a script. I have a script that may be handy to you all. I tried to create something that was going to be a use case scenario where you all could use it. It was pretty simple. When I say you all, I'm not limiting it to just the students in class, but anybody on Cyber Thursday, anybody that's trying to learn Python and just start coding, right? So I made a script. I called it password.py. And if y'all have any questions, feel free to cut me off, right?
We
I
can
know.
use this in our own virtual labs.
Yeah. You
Is it gonna
can.
be is it going are you recording it? And where can we find it? If we
Oh
want
yeah, so this is on YouTube.
okay.
It's going to be on YouTube. You'll also see it on Discord on in the YouTube channel. Once this recording is done, it'll be there for you all. The actual file, I'll paste it in Discord, and I'll host it on GitHub. It's just a link you can click and download it. So let's look at the file real quick. I'm gonna use Nano just for the cool colors for now. Whoops. All right. So here is our file. This is some of it. Let me see if I can stretch it out. Don't worry about this stuff right here at the bottom, right? Everything under this line we don't care about. This is a pretty simple and straightforward Python script, right? I'll explain it. Okay, it must have taken the comments out that I had. All right, so hopefully it still works. It doesn't look like everything copied and pasted. All right, but here's a pretty straightforward Python script. What this script is doing is looking at a list of passwords. Right, let's say you store all of your passwords in one file on your computer, which you should never do, right? You shouldn't do that. I know some of us do it. I do it for my lab machines. But let's say you're storing your passwords in a list and you want to know if your passwords are strong according to your requirements. This script is going to look through that list of passwords and let you know if each and every single one of them is either a strong password or a weak password. Okay, that's what this script is doing, right? And obviously, it's not the best script to check for weak passwords, but this is really just for a learning purpose, right? Learning purposes right now on how Python works, just the fundamentals of Python. And we can probably in other Cyber Thursday series make this more complicated. All right. So in a nutshell, what is this script doing? It's checking a list of passwords that you give it, and it's going to let you know if that list of passwords is weak or strong. Okay, according to what we deem as weak passwords. All right, so in Python, we have these things called functions. The functions are, let's think of them as actions, right? The function is acting. It's an action. It's doing something, right? If you want, let's say you're creating a game and you want somebody to start running, well, you have to create a function for them to start running, right? For our program here, we want to check if the passwords are weak. Well, we need to create a function that's going to do that action. And usually we create functions with this def command here, this def define. We're defining a function. So you can see three functions in our program already, right? Here's a def, right? Define, analyze passwords. We have another def, right? Define, read passwords from file. We're going to explain all of that. And we have another def, define main, right? So we have three functions in this script. So we have three different actions that are taking place in this script right now. All right, so the first one, let's go through this. This one is called analyze passwords. You can name your functions whatever you want to name. If you want to call it Cyber Thursday, great. You want to call it Toby's the greatest, great. It doesn't matter. You can name your functions whatever you want, but it's best to name them something that makes sense, right? So this function is called analyze password. And what it's doing is taking an argument. Functions don't always have to take an argument. In our case, it's going to take an argument. And this argument here is just the list of passwords that we call passwords. We'll get more into it in a second. All right, so one more time. We're defining a function with this first line and we're calling it analyze password. And what it's taking is a list of passwords. We'll come back to that list of passwords. Let's just break the rest down. So let's jump into the function. You can see how everything inside of the function is indented a few spaces away from the define, this def right here, right? Everything else is indented. That's how you know it's a part of that function. All right, so what is this function doing? It has a list in here called weak passwords. How do we know this is a list? Because it's enclosed with brackets. In Python, if you have a list, you're going to put that list inside of brackets. Inside of our list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, right? What is the name of the list? It's weak passwords. What are the contents of the list? We have password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, QWERTY, admin, and let me in. Those are the contents of our list. You see how they're comma separated, right? Our list is delimited by commas. Delimited means it's separated by commas. All right, cool. So that's the first thing that's a part of this function. It's creating a list. It creates a list called weak passwords, and we see the weak passwords. Cool. The next thing that this function does is print something to the screen. The print function, if you want to print your name to the screen, all you would have to do is switch what's inside of here with your name, right? Just make sure you have the quotation marks and it's enclosed with parentheses. That's how you would print something to your screen. We're going to see this in action. All right, cool. The next thing in this function is a for loop. We're looping through things. So it's better if I go through it for us to understand. So what this loop is doing, right? We're looping through our list. So what it's doing is saying, hey, for every password in our list of passwords, we don't see the list of passwords yet, right? This right here is the list of weak passwords. We haven't gotten to the list of passwords yet, but it's saying, hey, for every password in your list of passwords, if that password is in our list of weak passwords, you see, weak passwords, for every password in our list of passwords, if that password is in this list of weak passwords, we want you to print weak password detected and then tell us what that weak password was. Okay, so for every password, and you can name this anything. You can say for every word, every zebra, every giraffe, every line. It doesn't matter, right? It's going to be based off of the things in this list. So for everything in this list, if that thing in that list, which is a password, if it exists inside of this weak passwords list, we want you to print weak password detected. Remember the same print function we learned up here. If you want to print anything, you put it inside of parentheses and quotations. All right, so print weak password detected, and then it's going to actually give you the weak password that it detected. Right, that's why we have it enclosed in curly braces, right? Curly braces. If you want to print a variable to the screen, and we'll get into variables, we actually already saw a few variables. If you want to print the variable to the screen, there are a bunch of ways to print it. I like using the printf statement. I like using printf, right? You see this letter F, it's going to print my variable that I enclose in brackets to the screen for me, right? And we'll see that. We're going to see everything, right? So for every password in that list of passwords, if the password is in this weak passwords, we want you to print weak password detected and let us know what that weak password was. Otherwise, that's where the else statement comes into play. We were just talking about, I think it was both. Yeah, we were just talking about if and else statements in the class. Otherwise, print strong password and let us know what the password is. So that's what the first function is doing. The first function is called analyze passwords. Why? Because that's what we're doing. We're analyzing passwords. We're saying, hey, we're going to create a list of weak passwords. Now, we're going to go through our password list. If anything in our password list matches the weak password, tell us it's a weak password. Otherwise, tell us it's a strong password. All right, cool. That's the first function. The second function, same thing. We're going to define it. What is it called? Read passwords from file, right? We're reading the passwords from file. And this argument is a file path. We'll explain it. Don't worry. I'm just talking to talk right now. All right. So what is it going to do? What is this function doing? Well, it's trying something, right? I probably should have left the try and accept statements for later, but we're gonna knock it out. All right, I'm gonna skip the try and accept for now and just jump into what the function is doing. The name of this function is read passwords from file. Okay, what is it doing? It's opening up a file. It's opening up our file of our password file, right? So let me just show you. So this is the password file, right? We're going to see it again. We're going to see it again, but I had to show you now because it just made sense to me to show you right now. So here's the password file, right? This is the file that has a list of passwords. Now, don't worry, none of those are my real passwords. So this function is reading passwords. That's why we called it read passwords from file. It makes sense when you see it. You know what the function is, kind of, sort of, you know what it's supposed to do. And it's looking for a file path. It's the file path we just looked at. We're going to give the function that file path. Now, what is the function doing? It's opening up that file path we just looked at, the passwords.txt. In Python, there's several ways to open up a file. This is one way to do it. We're going to use this with open statement, okay? So with space open, and then in parentheses, we're going to give the name of the file or the variable, which we call file path. We're going to see where it's set later, comma, read, right? R for read, something we talked about in class. R for read, W for write. We're going to give it comma read because we simply want to read the contents of the file. So what are we doing? We're opening up a file. With open is opening up a file. And what you do with that file, whether you're reading or writing to it, you have to tell Python, hey, I only want to read the file. So one more time, this function, we're defining it, is called read passwords from file. It's going to open a file and read it. And all the contents in that file, the file we just looked at, all the contents, we're going to name it. We're going to put it in a new file called file. Okay, so we're opening that file path, whatever file path we give it, so we can read it, and all the contents, we're going to put it into a new file. Cool. And then with this file open, right, while this file is open, we are going to create a new list. How do I know it's a new list? Because look, they're brackets, right? Open bracket right here, and we're closing the bracket right here. Just like the weak passwords, we had an open bracket here and we close the bracket here. With this file open, using the contents in that file, because we said open the file and we want to store all the contents in a new file called file. With those contents in this new file, we want to create a new list called passwords. And everything in this file, we're going to put it inside of a list called password with this lambda function. All right, so what this is doing is just stripping all the new lines out of the file. All right, so let's go back to our file. So we have password, God rules, testing, complicated. They're all on separate lines. Every single one of these characters are on, or passwords are on separate lines. Password is on a line, God rules is on a line, testing is on a line, complicated is on a line. What this is doing is stripping them out into, we're going to put them into a list like this. That's what this is doing. It's saying, hey, we want to strip out the new lines. Okay, we're going to create our own password file based off of what's inside of this. We're creating our own password list, a password list in Python based off of what's open in this file right here, based off of this. Okay, because this is the path we're going to give it. So it's going to create a list. It's just going to take off the new lines, right? And it's going to create something like this, right? Something like that. Cool. There are other ways to do it. This is just was the quickest way for me to do it, and it's cleaner. And then we're just going to return the passwords. So we're just going to put the passwords inside of that. Yeah, we're just creating a new file, a new list called passwords, and we're storing those passwords inside of this list called password. Now, the try and accept statement. This is really to catch errors that you know may happen. Right? This is really the catch errors that you know may happen. Hey, we want you to try to do this. We want Python to try to do this. But what if they give us the wrong file path? Well, if they give you the wrong file path, you're going to get this error, file not found error. We know, right? Because we've tested this out. If you get the wrong file path, you're going to get this error. So we want you to try this. But if you get this error, we want you to print this to the screen. Right? Let's look at that real quick. So I'm gonna run that. So it's asking me to give it a file path, right? I'm gonna give it the wrong file path. It says error, file not found. This was the file path that we gave it, test. It said error, file not found. This is what you gave me. There's no password to analyze. I'm exiting. That's exactly what we told it to say. Error, file not found, because this function needs the file path. If the file path doesn't exist, if you typed in the wrong file path, if there's a typo, whatever it may be, we want to catch that and let you know, hey, what you gave us, it's not there, right? It doesn't exist. Try again. So this is the second function, right? We have two functions that we went over so far. This first function is analyzing a password. It's creating a list of weak passwords. Here's the list, right? It's printing something to the screen, analyzing passwords. It's saying, hey, for password in that list of passwords, if the password is a weak password, print this to the screen. If it's not, print this to the screen. The second function is called read passwords from file. It's taking an argument of the file path. We call it file path. We'll get into it. And what we're doing in this function, we're trying to open up that file path that you gave this function. We're trying to open up the file path and read, right? With just read permission. And we're going to store the contents in another file called file, right? And everything in this file, we want to strip out the new lines, right? File, we want to strip out the new lines in this file and store it in a new list called passwords. If that doesn't work, let them know that they gave us the wrong file path. Now, the last function is the main function. This is where we put everything together. Everything we just did, we're going to put it together right here. Main function. We have a variable. What is a variable? We saw plenty of variables. Here's a weak passwords variable. Here is our file path variable. Here's a passwords variable. A variable is just a placeholder that you store values in. You can have a variable called dog equals the name of your dog, right? This variable is called file path. The value of this is going to be whatever you type in, whatever you input, right? The input command right here is taking input from our user. So let's see it again. I'm going to run the password. It's asking for my file path. I'm running the script. It says enter the path to the file containing passwords. That's what this variable is set to do. It's waiting for you to give an input. It says enter the path to the file containing passwords. Whatever we input right here, if I put test, it is going to be stored as this file path variable. Okay, it is going to be stored as the variable. We can hard code a variable and say, hey, we can say file path equals test. We can give it a file path, but we don't want to give it a file path, right? We want to give the file path after we run the script. So we use this input. So we can provide an input when the script is ran. All right. So, and whatever the input is going to get stored in this variable called file path. The next variable is called passwords. What this variable is going to do, what's inside of this variable, because the variable is just a placeholder. You're just storing things in the variable. In this file path variable, we're storing the path of the file. That's why we called it file path. You can name the variable whatever you want to name it, but it's best to name it something that's going to make sense. So here we call the variable file path. We're storing the path, the file path, in this variable. Over here, we have a variable called passwords. What we're doing is taking that file path and running it through this function. What is this function? Read passwords from file. That's what this is doing. So what this variable is doing, or what's inside of this variable, is going to be that passwords list that this function is creating, because that's what this function is ultimately creating. This read passwords from file function is creating this passwords list. We're creating this password list by opening up the file path. Where do we get the file path? The user is going to give you the file path. And then the file path is going to be put inside the read passwords from file function. What does the read passwords from file function do? What is it doing? It's right here. It's opening up that file path and stripping out each character, well, stripping out all the new lines and putting the strings into a list. That's what this variable is doing. So file path, you're going to get the input from the user of the file path. Password is going to create that list. It's storing, this password is storing that list. And now, finally, if passwords, right? This is the password. If passwords is set, right? This is another cool way to just say, hey, if the passwords exist, if we have passwords, if they gave us, if there are passwords in this file, we want you to do the analyze passwords function. Here it is. This is the analyze password function. If passwords exist, that means if this variable is set, if passwords variable is set, if passwords exist, then we want you to do the analyze password function, this right here. That means we want you to look at the passwords that are inside of that list. And for each password in the passwords list, right? We're making the passwords list here. For each password in the passwords list, we want to know if they're weak or strong. If passwords exist, analyze the passwords to let us know if they're weak or strong. If passwords don't exist, right? That's the else right here, because right here is if they do exist. Otherwise, if they don't exist, print no passwords to analyze. All right, so this is the script. Now let's run through it. Let's run through the script. Let's run through the script, and we're going to do it side by side. So I'm going to make this smaller. Put that guy right there. I'm going to make this right here. All right, sweet. Do I have T-marks on here? No. Well, I won't use T-marks because we might get a little bit too complicated. All right. Try to sleep. All right, sweet. So we have the script open up at the bottom. And we're going to run it up here one more time. So what's the first thing that it's doing, right? We got to come to the main function. This is where you're putting everything together, the main function. Hey, the first thing that's happening, we need to get the variable. We need to create the variable file path. So ask the user this. Ask them to enter the path to the following, to the file containing passwords. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Well, actually, I'm going to give it something wrong on purpose, right? It's gave it something wrong on purpose. What happened? It tried to read the passwords from the file, right? So let me start right here. File path, we're supposed to give it the input. So what happens after we give it the input? It's going to try and read that file path, right? It's going to do this. Passwords, my mouse got stuck. Passwords equals read passwords from file path. So whatever file path we provided, We're going to give test again. It's going to take this input and store it inside of this variable called file path. So now file path equals test. And that means it's going to take test, since file path equals test, is going to put it here. That's the next thing. Anything that has a hashtag is not, it's just a comment. It's not being ran. It's just a comment so you know what's going on. So the first thing that the script does is going to, the main meats and potatoes of the script, the first thing it's going to do is ask you for the file path. Hey, give me the file path. We gave it the file path. We said the file path is going to be test. So what the script is going to do is, in its brain, it's going to know file path equals test. Well, what's the next thing it's going to do? It's going to try to read the files from that file path we gave it. So it's going to use our read passwords from file function to try and read what's inside of the file path of test. And whatever's in there is going to be set to the passwords list. But since test doesn't exist, it fails out. Why? Because we told the script to. Look at the function, right? This read passwords from file function is defined up here. That's where it's defined. What is it doing? It's trying to open up the file path that we gave it, test. And it's trying to go inside of that test file path and create a list of passwords. But there is no test file path, so there's no list to create. It tried to do it. If it doesn't work, it's going to say, hey, error, file not found. And then it's going to give us the test. It's going to give us the file path we provided. Look at the file path. This is the variable file path. This is the value of that variable. You have the variable, you have the value, the variable, the value, the variable, the value. We told it, hey, if it doesn't work, if we can't find the file path, tell them file not found and give them back the value of this variable. And that's what it did. File not found. Here's the value of the file path you provided. Now, let's do this the right way. So we're going to give it the right file path. I forgot where it's, oh yeah, it's here. PWD to get the full working directory, or the full path I meant. Let's copy that. We'll run the script again. This time we'll give it the right file path. Passwords.txt, right? Because that's where my passwords are stored right now. I'll copy that so I have it. Now, this is going to, all right, here's our script. This file path, that's what we're giving it right now. This is the input. We're going to give it the file path. I'm going to hit enter. Now look at what it does. It goes and analyzes the password. Let's take a break. Hold on. So look, we gave it the file path this time. We gave it the right file path. So this right here, it's literally just going to store it like this. It's literally just going to do that, right? Because that's what we gave it. So now the file path equals this. So now it's, what does passwords equal? It equals this function with our file path. So this just equals this now. I hate Nano. So that's what this really looks like, right? This is what it really is after we give it a file path. So let's look at it again. We gave it the file path. It asked us, hey, enter the file paths to the file containing passwords. We gave it, right? That's what we did right here. We gave it this path. And what does the script do? It's going to set the variable file path as the value we just provided. Cool. Now what's next? It's going to create a new variable using this function, and it's running this function because the function is an action. It's running this function against this argument, which is what? Our file path, right? So this is what it would look like. Password equals this function against our file path. So what is that doing? What is the read passwords from file path doing? It's right here. It's not magic. It's going to open up that file path we gave it. And then what is going to create a list called passwords. How is it creating this list? By opening up the file path we gave and stripping all this, each line into a comma separated list called passwords. All right. We have the passwords variable. Now, what does the script do next? It's going to analyze the password. If password is set, which it is now set. Password equals this. If password is set, we want you to analyze the password. Use the analyze password function against these password. So we're going to analyze it. What is the analyze password function? It creates a list called weak password. It's going to print analyzing password. You can see that right here. For each password in our list of passwords, here's each password, God rules, testing, complicated. For each password in our list of password, if the password is weak, if it's in weak passwords, tell them it's a weak password. And you see weak password detected, which one it was. Weak password detected. Give them the value of this variable password. This is in our list of password. We have each of these in our list. It's telling us, hey, inside of your list, this is weak. All right. Then the next one is saying it's strong, right? Print strong password if it's not in this list of weak passwords. Right? If password is in weak passwords, let them know it's weak. If it's not, let them know it's strong. God rules is not in the weak passwords list. Testing is not in the weak passwords list. Complicated is not in the weak password list. This is the fundamentals of Python, the very basics, right? This is enough to get you to understand other scripts that are created in Python, right? You may not be able to understand everything, but you can at least start understanding the basics, right? It's like me going into a foreign country and speaking Spanglish, right? I may not be able to understand everything, but I can get around. All right. Any questions, y'all? Let's see. Oh, I missed some stuff on the YouTube session. What's up, ZB? Let me know if you have any questions. Sorry, I missed it earlier, but I am here. Class, if there are no other questions, hey, tell them hopefully this helps you out with work. But if there are
Yeah,
no other, what
for
was
sure,
that?
man. I start grad school soon, and this is the main focus, so definitely helpful.
That's oh yeah, when do you start that grad program?
Beginning of January.
Oh, that's dope. Are you and Cedric starting at the same time?
Nah, Cedric started already. He just finished his first semester.
Oh dang, that's dope.
Yeah,
That's dope. That's dope.
appreciate
That's
it.
dope. No problem, man. Telvin's one of our star students. Can't remember when he took the class, but he was one of those where his first position was a SOC analyst position. Right? He's been working with Deloitte for almost 3 years now.
Yeah, that's right. Just going into my third year.
Dang, man. That's a vet, y'all.
How is it?
Nah, it's pretty cool, man. My job actually just went remote, so I'm super excited. Gives me the freedom
Dang.
to move wherever I want to. So, on the hunt for houses and stuff like that now.
That's lit, man. Any advice that you would give to them getting ready? Next week is their last week in class, so they'll be getting ready to take their Security Plus. Some of them already started working on their resumes. Any advice you would give to them?
Yeah, I say right now just focus on passing the Security Plus. Like when I was getting ready to take the test, I put all my like I work on like a bunch of different projects, but I put everything aside for like a good month and a half, 2 months, and just focus solely on the Security Plus. And then once you get that, you can like focus on your resume and getting a job first. But as of now, just like buckle down on the Security Plus. I'm telling you, study the study guide, top to bottom, man. Study that joint, top to bottom. I promise you'll be fine.
And he's talking about the flexi when he says study guide, y'all. That flexi. I keep telling you, keep telling you, I keep telling you. You might as well get ready for the game with real hands-on practice. All right. Anybody have any questions for Telvin while you got him? I would definitely lock in with them, y'all. Right? That they do have internal referrals. I would hit them up on Discord, introduce yourself, be polite, be kind, be respectful. Hey, I'm Bolu. Hey, I'm Naja. Hey, I'm James. Introduce, well, James, Telvin. Just introduce yourself, make a new friend, right? Start networking and do that with all the O-line graduates, especially those who are succeeding in their career right now. All right, y'all. That is it for Cyber Thursday. Shout out to y'all for joining us. Thank you for this session. I'll keep your name anonymous for now. The person who brought up the Python query or Cyber Thursday request. Shout out to you, y'all. If you have any other requests, you feel free to leave it on YouTube as a comment. Hit me up on social media, Discord, whatever it may be, and we will try our best to get it up and on the screen.
I have one more question, bro.
Go for it, my guy.
Those glasses, that's to stop like the glare, bro. Because I think I need some of those, bro. I tried the blue ones, but it's not as I don't know.
See, these are long. These are supposed to be blue light too, but the ones that don't have this tint, this color, they don't last as long. For me, right? The ones that are clear, because I got a few of them, right? I got smart ones, I got regular ones. I personally feel as if after maybe 6 to 9 months that they get weaker. This one I've had it for a long time, and I guarantee you it hasn't changed, right? My eyes still feel good. And if you're staring at computers and screens as much as I am, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 screens right here. You need these.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just send that link, bro.
Yeah, I got you. I got it off of Amazon. It's about $14, $19, something like that. And it was a pack. All right, guys, gals, I will see everybody else this weekend, right? Study hall. If not, I'll see you next week. Next week is our last week. So please bombard me with questions. Bombard us with your resumes. Bombard us with your elevator pitches and story points. And we will do our best to work with you expeditiously. All right, y'all. Peace. Good night. See you next week.